Hello again, I'm Stephen Cummings and welcome to yet another edition of the Citizens Community Forum. Our objective is always to have an engaging and interactive session, and of course we treat with so many social, economic and national issues here in Trinidad and Tobago. Our guests are persons who express views, opinions and perspectives of their own, and sometimes may not necessarily be that of the FBN network, the Citizens Community Forum, or that of the host. Our topics are also wide-ranging. As I said, discussions at times may be emotionally charged, but surely we can always find common ground, even in the face of our differing views. Well, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, and President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Ifran Ali, witnessed the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding between their two countries just a few days ago. And the parties agreed to cooperate in a number of areas, including encouraging cooperation and joint action between enterprises in their respective countries, pursuing enhanced cooperation in the agriculture and food security sector, security as a standalone, energy infrastructure, trade and investment. This also included addressing non-tariff barriers and other impediments to the flow of goods and services between them and other areas, as many, and also may be determined to contribute towards sustainable and resilient development in the two countries. Now, the focus is about further advancement of the CARICOM single market and economy, promoting cooperation in the areas of sports and culture, tourism, and the strengthening of educational exchange. What is also interesting, perhaps deja vu for some, is that we are back to that place for yet another time on the business of agriculture and boosting food production, not just for Trinidad and Tobago, but for the region. We saw that historic signing, but should we be of renewed hope in really breaking the back of many of those issues that plague us here, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but in the wider region? Well, this week we saw that, as I said, that signing, that historic signing just a few days ago. Some skeptics may still want to hold out to the view that this could again be perhaps just hot air at the regional level among our leaders, as we all wait to see the realization of these initiatives. Well, at this time on the Citizens Community Forum, we are going to take another snapshot, another look back at what occurred during the last few days with the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding between Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley and the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Ifran Ali. After we hear from Dr. Rowley, we will then review part of a joint press conference where Dr. Ali spoke. Also, towards the end of the program, we will take a step back to get a perspective from one of our own local food producers here and distributors, Mr. Balliram Maharaj, who we spoke with recently on this very same issue of food security and food production. So let's start and have a listen at this time to Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley as he spoke fresh from his Guyana trip, an agriculture or an agri-investment forum and expo. The forum themed Investing in Vision 25 by 2025 and was aimed at reducing the region's food import bill and helping to attract investment in the agricultural sector. Let's hear now from Dr. Rowley.
Opportunities for significant investment in agriculture, because what has been holding us back in agriculture is the absence of the scale of investment that is required to move the needle in terms of quantum. Imagine we're talking here in Trinidad and Tobago about maximizing our rice production. Yes, we are talking about that and we're going to be acting on that. But it looks as if that we could get to about 5,000 acres. And then we talk to people in southern Guyana with the Brazilian input, and they talk about 50,000 acres. I can't point to a cattle farm in this country that has a few hundred heads of beef cattle, but it's possible, and they already exist with access into the CARICOM market once we open the door to them of an abattoir that could slaughter 1,000 heads of cattle a day. What we have been doing is looking for our food supply far away around the world, when in fact there are possibilities to find the food supply next door with our effort, significant aspects of our investment and our transportation. But there are some missing links that we need to put in place to ensure that our food supply comes from the closest, most affordable and most sustainable arrangements, and that's the difference. Currently, we import a lot of our meat from Australia and New Zealand, Europe and the United States. Very little from next door. A lot of our fresh fruits. There ought to be no shortage of fresh fruits in the CARICOM, because we are able, if we do what we have to do, to access all of it from within CARICOM, both in the islands and in the Guyanese and Belizean plains. So we are embarking on this, and you will see and hear a whole lot more about it. We've also agreed, in order to keep this momentum going and to move from plan to execution, that CARICOM would set up, largely led by Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana, a commission of technocrats to help guide this political decision that we have been making, so that the actual work is done in the context of the data and the technical support that is required, both to accept assistance and to use that assistance to move us from where we are to where we would like to be. So these are the kinds of assignments that we'll be doing, and our Trinidad and Tobago ministers and our technical people will be very busy between now and the end of August, and we're going to have a major meeting here in mid-August. The country looks to the government and our governments in CARICOM to insulate us from these vagaries of prices and supply chain disruptions that now seem to be the order of the day. We are a trading nation, Trinidad and Tobago, and much of what I say about Trinidad and Tobago would be applicable to our CARICOM neighbors. We import most of our food, and this question of a food import bill has always been on our lips. And even where we do have the money to pay for food, we have found out that there are times when you can't obtain the supplies even from your normal suppliers. This has driven CARICOM to take steps to look at what we need to do within our borders to ensure that, notwithstanding what might be happening outside, that we do the best that we can at home, and therefore refocus our food production systems towards ensuring that all our production systems, whether they are small farmers, medium farmers, large farmers, or even farmers who do not know exist, to create new production and to expand production, that become a major focus of CARICOM. We've had this work going on at the level of the heads of government and the leadership of Guyana, starting with President Jagdio, who had done some documentation before, and now President Ali, who has accelerated it in a major way, resulting in us going to Guyana this week. A present down there with me, led by President Ali, was the Prime Minister of Antigua, the representation from the Barbados government, the Prime Minister of Montserrat was there, the Prime Minister of, we had people, the Barbados and St. Lucia. So a number of CARICOM government interests were there, and all of the Guyanese government interests, technical people, and the requisite political leadership of the country. What we were focusing on, two things. One, significant increase in production of raw materials that form the basis of our food supply, meaning those things that we import in large volumes, and those are corn, soya, and of course meat. We focus on those three things. And the reason why this is being done with a focus on Guyana is because Guyana has the physical capacity to significantly increase the supply of these raw materials within CARICOM as CARICOM's home production. And that also involves wheat, because in this discussion and in this practicum, we are also looking at the production of wheat in Guyana, getting the right varieties, and I'm pleased to announce that the tests have shown that there are varieties that can do well in our area. The tests on the cornfields that we have been very positive, and so the soya bean. And more importantly, we are not limiting our vision to what we are capable of or have experienced within CARICOM. We have found significant positive interest across the border in southern Venezuela, Guyana. There's an article in, I think it's The Economist this week, and it's headlined, "The Coming Food Catastrophe." And I would hold it out for you all for good reading. What it's really pointing to is that the world food supply is going to become more and more problematic. And as you saw with the vaccine, it is who has more corn will feed more fowl, and some people will not be able to feed any fowl at all. So we at this time have to get serious about increasing our production. In all of this, the whole question of the role of the small, the medium, need to be protected, as well as the creation of new investments, because these increased productions will not come without significant investment. We do have some investment capacity, and we have been also looking and finding good offers of investment. In this period that we are in, this kind of situation, what we are finding is that the offer of assistance in funding our arrangements to get out of our difficulty, those offers have been coming forward, and we have some significant proposals on the table in meetings that we are going to be involved in the coming weeks, whether it is with the CDB at the Summit of the Americas or the European Development Day. All of these things are coming up, and they all seem to be coming at the same time, because everybody is focusing on the difficulties that we all are experiencing. So we do have now some capacity to do the kinds of things that we've been talking about, and some support to get them done. And it brings into our focus immediately, if we manage to get these increased production, that we now have to focus on transportation of what we produce to the places of packaging, to the places of processing, and of course the distribution system. And we are aiming to handle all of that as a major CARICOM initiative. So this meeting that took place in Guyana, I would say, would have broken the back of this, what we do about our food import and our food import bill. We have broken the back of it. We've found a way forward, we are committed to a way forward, and there will have to be adjustments to accommodate that. And of course, as we go forward with that, it calls out the whole question of whether we are going to seriously move towards the operations of a single market and a single economy in CARICOM. Because if we do not go down that road, we could find ourselves obstructing these possibilities as we play dog in the manger on an island basis or on a national basis. We in CARICOM have to get serious, and the commitment among CARICOM leaders at this time is that we are driven, pushed to be serious on these matters. As a result of what we have agreed to advance and to accept as our direction in this Guyana meeting, there has to be immediate follow-up. And that follow-up, the next follow-up would be in Trinidad and Tobago in August. I will set that date in the next few days.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley there as he spoke fresh from his Guyana trip on Agri-Investment Forum and Expo event. And we now hear from President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Ifran Ali.
The extraordinary opportunity that is before us as a region. We have just last evening issued through the Secretariat an outcome statement, and in that statement you will see not only did we conclude on this event in Guyana, but we went many steps forward, not a step, by outlining a clear strategy as to what is needed, what has to be addressed, but more importantly, Trinidad and Tobago now taking on the aggressive implementation by an immediate follow-up in August on the decisions and type of policy that is required in pushing this forward, not only in achieving the 25 by 2025, but more importantly, as President Rowley would have said many times over the last few days, developing a model, a framework through which the entire agri-food system, agri-food business system will evolve into a mainstream economic and social activity backed importantly by political will and inclusive of the private sector participation. And I think that is how, and when I say private sector here, the farmers and the farming community and the persons who are in that productive line are an integral part of that private sector community I'm speaking about. So our discussions with Trinidad and Tobago has been very focused. It has been very positive and forward-looking. And I would say this, it was very frank, very open, and it gave us an opportunity not only to examine a sector, but it gave us an opportunity to take the bull by the horn, I would say, and to identify in a very open and frank way missed opportunities, to help us to identify opportunities in the future, blocks to the opportunities. We are not naive, we are not unaware of impediments or blocks or constraints or challenges. And in our discussions, we took all of that into consideration. But what we have concluded and chartered is a joint commitment on how we're going to secure the futures of the people of these two countries by working together, by partnership, looking at joint opportunity, looking at low-hanging fruits, and developing a medium to long-term pathway through which we will enjoy success for Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, and the people of both countries. At the end of the day, we are not only neighbors. At the end of the day, we are not only part of a community, we are part of a family. We are part of a family. And we want our relationship to be defined in such constraint. In any family, when there is challenges, there is a greater desire to overcome. There is a greater desire to get ahead of the challenges and keep the family strong and ensure that the needs of the family is what is paramount. And I am very pleased with the type of discussion President Rowley and I had at an individual level and the two teams had at a bilateral level. Look, there is only one way. In my head, I always say that I am looking at positive development and positive outcome. And there is only one way that the people of these two countries will realize the tremendous potential and harness the potential of both countries in a way that will develop them as companies, as individuals, and then multiply to the wider society and country. But for that to happen, it requires conversation. It requires understanding the vision of both countries, understanding the direction of both countries. We could have had years, I was telling Prime Minister Rowley, years of telephone conversation or exchange of letters. What we achieved in the last 3 days would take a conventional communication method years to achieve. We want the private sector of both countries to be fully on board. We want the investors in both countries to be fully on board. But importantly, we want the people of both countries to be fully on board in this process that can lead to not only transformation, but tremendous diversification. I'm very pleased that Prime Minister Rowley took the opportunity to also visit expansive areas of Ghana. Areas that Trinidad investors or many investors in the region overlook. And seeing firsthand the type of potential that exists. And in these 3 days, we are even talking about the widening of this relationship. After we had the presentation from the state of Roraima and investors from Roraima. Sometimes we are very myopic in the vision at a societal level. But when you see, with the addition of a boarding state, the potential, the type of increased production that can be generated, not only for the two countries, but for the region. But what is absolutely clear is that for this to occur, there must be partnership. There must be a flow. When we talk about the value chain, sometimes we get caught up in the financial aspect or the economic aspect of the value chain. But the relationship aspect of the value chain, you can't have ease of logistics if you don't have ease of participation, ease of connection. And these are some of the, what I would say, the heavy issues that were lifted in the last few days. As we speak to you now, we're already exploring the possibility of having a cargo plus ferry facility as an experiment between Guyana and Trinidad, moving people and goods and services. Because for the CARICOM experiment and the CARICOM plans to work, and you will see we made some very strong announcement on transport and logistics that is moving us away. And I made this point before. It is not often you find governments tying themselves to particular outcome in a time frame. The fact that CARICOM and we are tying ourselves to outcomes based on time frame tells you the seriousness that we're approaching this issue with.
We take a short break now, and when we come back, we hear from Mr. Balliram Maharaj, one of our local food producers here in Trinidad and Tobago, someone who has been in the business for some 40 years plus, and for his perspective as he spoke with us in an earlier interview.
You tell me something, Mr. Cummings. You are seeing asparagus selling in one of those high-end supermarkets. We can't see local tomatoes. So then we come in, we spin it up in mud. I'm not talking about them farmers in Busup, Marino and Old Vans, or they're only complaining about land and they want land out of... No.
You know something that bothers me? People want change and cannot get it peacefully. They resort to violence in order to get that change. Look at the history of the world and you see that is what is taking place.
The difference is that a country like the United States could simply print money, trillions of dollars of support, social support, business support. They're talking about another $2 trillion. So they could print money. We can't do that. If we do that, then we get inflation. So our deficit is problematic.
2011, which I looked at, and that actually came out of the Central Statistical Office. Do we have any updated data?
Actually, I was very impressed by your statistical knowledge, Mr. Cummings. Yes, the last census was in 2011, and there would have been population and housing estimates subsequently, and the figures remain about the same.
What are some of those other pressure points?
Persons who are coming in with problems. Nobody's coming in there to talk about how wonderful their day was. And so the things that show up a lot is a lot of co-parenting issues, figuring out how, after we separated, how to still care for the child well, issues around domestic violence, issues around child abuse.
Discussions on health, leadership, governance, crime, education, and social justice. Every Wednesday, 8 to 9 p.m. The Citizens Community Forum. Your host, Stephen Cummings.
Welcome you back again to the Citizens Community Forum. Stephen Cummings, and I have with me at this time on the program Mr. Balliram Maharaj. He is the CEO of ADM. Of course, Mr. Maharaj has been in the business of food distribution, marketing throughout not just Trinidad and Tobago, throughout the region and throughout the world. Someone who has a wealth of knowledge and information as to how the dynamics, work when it comes to the business of food. I can't put it, simpler than that. Mr. Maharaj, welcome back.
Thank you.
I wanted to look at the issue of education on this business of understanding the importance of not just producing food, but the science as well. It has been said that for many years that agriculture has not gotten the kind of traction, especially among young people. They see it as back-breaking work. They see it as laborious type of activity. What do you think we can do, Mr. Maharaj, to sort of encourage our young people to get involved in the production of food, to see food and its production as a career, something that would be something for not just the future generation, but something that is sustainable and a career path for which they can go into?
Well, if I just go backwards for 2 minutes to bring my point. It was only yesterday we were talking about this thing. What indentured labor came down here, and it will appear that one intentions those intentions had was to ensure a better life for the children and the children to come. Education was one, and trading was another thing. And the idea of technology would have come from education. But did government, upon governments come, we beg them, without technology and the cost of fungicide, etc., is really unbelievable. So, I mean, when you buy now, it's thousands of dollars you have to pay for this thing. Where I have one plot of land in Arriba there, where the government have a substation pulling the water from a well, and I have several pools I build for the dry season, and when that time comes, no water. So growing food without water, without labor, without massive land and technology, we start with a disadvantage. And the same thing is parallel to manufacturing goods. We tried to do cheese in Trinidad. It don't make no sense bringing down 90% of a finished product, and you have to bring the majority from away and only use labor, which is expensive here, and maybe water and electricity. These are the setbacks we have. Government have to find themselves involved with incentive on production, like what is done in England. When we buy English cheese here, there's a thing they call a bill of lading, and customs stamp it. We have to send it back, and the farmer will get a certain subsidy. I am saying here, for God's sake, I hope it gets in the correct hands. Government, get cheap loans, give people the lease, some kind of arrangement for subsidies in the your bill for fungicide and these things. Most important, go back to how it was done with cocoa, coffee, bananas, etc. You buy it into the marketing board, in this case, NAMDEFCO. You give them a small receipt and you give them a small incentive on the production, and you'll have proper records.
Right. Because, you know, again, you know, going back to that question again, you know, what can we do to make agriculture more attractive, you know, to young people? Because that's where the future is, you know, Mr. Maharaj. You know, people would tell you that there has to be that kind of that system whereby that bridging the generational gap. Of course, you know, we know what has happened over the many decades. We are no longer in the sugarcane fields. We are no longer in the cocoa fields as we were decades ago. And one wonders, you know, what can be done now to kind of engender that love and you know, for young people, and attracting them back into those sectors. We may not have sugar, you know, in the way that we would have had it many decades ago, but certainly you mentioned the point of technology that possibly can be one of those areas.
Well, you wouldn't believe the amount of fish and lobster and shrimps is grown in pools with technology. Right?
Which is something that young people can get involved in. Yes.
These are, yeah, but it's not the kind of like working in the fields. But that is one area. I went to, I was afforded a trip to New Zealand. There were over 2,000 cows, and they only had 5 people working that. Technology. A jeep go with the light and they blow their horn, and they get in the line. No kicking, no fighting, no cursing. But they get in the line and it goes around a big circle, and they have 5 people alone taking care of 2,000 cows.
Right. So we've seen what technology can do to the industry and to the sector. I also wanted to, you know, if you can reflect a bit, Mr. Maharaj, and we just want to remind our listeners again and our viewers that this is the Citizens Community Forum. I'm speaking with Mr. Balliram Maharaj. He's the CEO of ADM, and of course, someone who's had many years of experience and work in the food and distribution business in Trinidad and Tobago, throughout the region and throughout the world. Mr. Maharaj, when we look at Trinidad and Tobago, over the last 2 years plus, we have, you know, the entire world, as a matter of fact, you know, been plunged into a global pandemic. How damaging and by extension do you see us being able to get back to that point of production levels, probably pre-2015 production levels? Because when you look at the data, there was in fact, you know, an increase in our production where food is concerned. But if you look within the last few years, we've had rising, you know, food import bill, which seems to be going just up and up and up. Do you envision at any time that we would get back to some semblance of where we can, you know, say, well, at least we are able to manage our food import bill here in Trinidad and Tobago?
I don't think it's hard to get back, but it has to be done in a holistic point of view. Government have to get involved. When I talk, let's take an item like you go to one of these chicken and chips places. That chips alone, we use about 100 containers in Trinidad at least a month. We pay 5% to bring it in. If we use that as a model, in order to encourage the farmers who is growing cassava and sweet potato, which is a better eating food, then it absorbs less oil in it.
Yes, and we can talk about food nutrition, but go ahead, yes.
But then they put a bigger tax than the 5%, let's consider that potato chips is a fancy item. I'm not saying to encourage tax, but the point is, what I'm trying to drive home, we take the tax and bring it into the plantation in the Ministry of Agriculture to help subsidize the farmers, the technology, and to get what we call in farming more yield. So, for instance, right now there is something we could use, a new way of planting cassava. We normally get about 10, 12, 13 pounds on one tree. That medication, or what they call it, the fertilizer, if you soak that plant in it, you're sure you're going to get 30 pounds twice. But who will help pay for that? These are very, very costly items. Now, and it needs water. You have to have your water there. So if your pond dry up, it's a problem. So you need guarantee market for these things, that when you have a glut in the market, you wouldn't want to leave it in the field. It must be done in a holistic way, with the government not taking the tax money and putting it into the funds, but taking it and giving back some to the farmers on the fancy items, strawberries, whether it's grapes, apples.
Well, we talk about luxury items, but yes. Yeah.
To put the tax on it and put it straight into agriculture. We need that badly. Use it to build the roads, use it to give the people the land, the leases. They have to come out there, because maybe in certain areas where the land is flat, you talk about laborious work. Let them people start to use waka and all these sort of things. They have to pay for them, they have to get diesels and all sort of things. Government have to work hand in hand. We all in this together. We don't want to come like Africa and have people without food. We market the cassava, encourage people. I am not saying we will push it down the throat, but a good cassava and a good soup, or mixed with some kind of oil down, and the flour is better, cassava flour. And we could sweet potato doing just as good, because that's what we could grow here.
All right, but again, Mr. Maharaj, you're saying that we do have a problem with land space as well as labor, and you know, that impacts on the production side of it. But you know, let me just there's some information here that I'm also, you know, referencing from the Ministry of Trade and Industry. It says that it continues to actively monitor local and global food prices. Now, the ministry, you know, is that ministry, that line ministry, that is charged with certain responsibilities when it comes to, you know, to our food import bill and what have you. They are saying that there are some 118 items which form part of the basket of goods, you know, of what we call basic food items. And they have estimated that over the last 2 years as well, the average increases in prices have been approximately 9.7%. Now, this is more recent. This is a more recent percentage point than what I referred to a little earlier on by Dr. Raja Hussain. Now, the Consumer Affairs Division, it is also saying that has estimated that locally the price of flour increased by 16% over the period February 2020 to February 2022. So again, some recent percentages there. Other items which increased during this period locally include vegetables, soya oil 42%, corned beef 40%, poultry 29%, infant formula 26%, milk 20%, red beans 16%. It goes on to talk about saltfish as well, 15%, rice 13%. So that what we have been seeing a pattern here, Mr. Maharaj, that at least, you know, the 10 percentage points up has been that marker, and in some cases even, you know, 16 and 26 and 42%. So we do have a threshold that we are seeing where these prices have been put at. And there was some time ago, you probably would remember, there was a commission, or was it a committee that was set up? It was called the Prices Control commission, something to that effect. I'm trying to remember the name specifically. I don't know if you are familiar with that. That was set up during the Manning administration, and one wonders, what has happened to these instruments that've been set up to just. Is it that they've been set up to just monitor prices, or should there be more that can be done or should be done in terms of maybe a prices control council, Mr. Maharaj? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I want to believe I was a member of that board. It's 2008. It was set up by Mr. Manning when he had a function somewhere in Justice, and I spoke, and he paid good attention. He's one of the prime ministers. Really worked well with the business people, and he had a good vision. And that commission had to report, and he on a weekly basis what is going on. He kept a close eye on us to ensure that the prices were under control, and we accepted complaints from people, and we were the media to take it to him or the relevant ministry. But that is very, very important, Stephen, that we consider setting up advisory board now, because right away, urgently, like yesterday, to get food back and listen to all the problems we have, to get back food and save any problems for starvation. The way I'm seeing it here, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I want to be very careful. But I am telling you, to get goods is a problem. The prices is the next problem. And with China on this campaign, no empty plates.
Yes, that's adding. It's adding to the Russia-Ukraine crisis as we have it.
No. That is seen. I don't know. I'm not sure. I want to be very careful how I say these words now. Is that I don't know if it's getting around the embargo, simple like that. The quantum of food they buying and we cannot get. And I am not the only one who's saying it. The little food production, world food production has declined drastically.
Yes.
And when they are buying and paying more money is no problem. We will be hurting. I'm telling you. I ordered some ghee in November. I only get one container book, 1 ONE. And we're going into the April, May just now. We normally use about 10 containers for Diwali. You just can't get shipped. You can't get the items. And right now, New Zealand and Australia are going in by May, June, winter. And look out for a big short in milk powder.
All right. So
and all the byproducts, it will be the worst.
All right. So we are going to have some challenges going forward with this whole business of food security here and in Trinidad and Tobago. And we just want to remind our listeners again that this is the Citizens Community Forum. Stephen Cummings, our topic this evening, food security, creating a buffer for Trinidad and Tobago in the face of the Ukraine-Russia crisis. And I have with me Mr. Balliram Maharaj, someone who has a wealth of knowledge and experience in the food distribution business. Mr. Maharaj, I wanted to touch a bit on the issue of foreign exchange, and I know that of course, the Trinidad and Tobago is tied to the US dollar. Many years ago, we have, or probably more recently, probably in the last 2-3 years, we've had that call again, and we're seeing it, even now, today in 2022, for an ease in the foreign exchange business coming from a lot of the different business sectors. How bad is it now where foreign exchange is concerned?
Well, it's not getting worse, but I saw a little ease up for the last, and I think the ease up came from not getting the availability of goods. Because definitely my total import has dropped drastically by having be able to get the goods. So, and again, I mentioned earlier on, I can't remember, but I spoke about buying rice from Ghana, getting the diesel across here, paying in TT dollars, and avoiding paying for sugar, rice, and these items from the CARICOM countries in foreign currency. You remember we have Republic there, Republic in Trinidad, Royal there, Royal here. I don't think it's any kind of big problem that certain interim way they could butter these goods through one bank. I deal with Royal Bank in Trinidad and they have Royal Bank in Ghana. I think my sugar, we could sell them some cheese and let the banks do the buttering and the money inside there.
Intra-regional trade, you're seeing where part of the solution for treating with this business of food security, food sufficiency, and keeping the prices at a manageable level is to have this, in a real sense, that the intra-regional type of activity going among our CARICOM neighbors and our CARICOM countries. But, you know, again, one wonders, Mr. Maharaj, you know, how is CARICOM treating with that very same issue that you've just referenced? You know, are you hopeful that we would get to that point one day where we can really sit down as a Caribbean people and look at each other and say, well, you know, this is what we need to do to help, you know, ease us out of where we are today?
Well, I don't think there is good discussion going on there. I think there's a lot of pulling and tugging. Just like our local parliament here, opposing, and you can see some, if you just look at the recent statement by Ghana president and something that's
Trinidad and Tobago,
falling apart.
It doesn't help. The narrative does not help.
What you have to do, the Minister of Trade, when they go in there, work with one or two powerful businessmen there.
But we've had so many trade missions, you know, in the past, Mr. Maharaj.
They work, but a lot of things.
What do you think would be different now?
No, they need to really get some respectful, honest business people who could make a contribution of what is going on and go across there. See, time, you see this thing, but every January, the CARICOM trade agreement, they suspend certain items, saltfish, pigtail, and some of the basic things. I am saying suspend them for good. And if you feel that they should bring them back for tax, bring them back. Do not do it, because those are unnecessary taxes. Don't, you know, right now, like cheese is suspended, then it ends at the end of the year, they have to go back and suspend it. These are the things they sit and spend a lot of time wasting. Donkey years, they suspend 12 or 15 items, right? And it's to take it off immediately with the opening. If there is need to bring it back, we'll bring it back. As for the taxes and so on sugar, rice, outside of CARICOM, I think the time have to be reducing those things a lot. Right? I remember going with another government, Kamala government, to Brazil. And I had a team with me, and we went to have the meeting with the beef. We don't buy beef from Brazil, no meat. And they say it's the foot and mouth disease. Only to find out over there, America buys it. What it does? America full-time vet over there, they stamp all the products, and they import the products with the American stamp on it.
Okay.
So we came back here with a presentation. The government liked it here. When it reached CARICOM, they tear it apart.
Okay, all right. So again,
I will tell you why they changed. Because they were not included when we went and negotiated that from Trinidad.
well, again, it comes back to that very same point that we are making, that there has to be a collective, among the CARICOM region, including Trinidad and Tobago, of course, so that we can go and, I suppose, present that one voice, to the world. They're not going to take us seriously, Mr. Maharaj, if Trinidad and Tobago goes there alone, or Guyana goes alone, or Jamaica. Certainly, there has to be a collective. But I also wanted to touch a bit, and before we go further, just want to ensure that our listeners are aware that this is the Citizens Community Forum. I'm Stephen Cummings, talking with Mr. Balliram Maharaj. Our topic this evening is food security, creating a buffer for Trinidad and Tobago in the face of the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Mr. Maharaj, we have just a few minutes before we end the program, but there are a couple of things, one or two questions I just wanted to have in before we end. There was a zero-rated list which was presented by the government, I think it was last year, that came somewhere close to the last budget that was presented. Would you like to see an expansion of that list? There were some basic items there, and some people had some concerns as to whether even what was zero-rated would have been in the interest of good health, of the good health of the nation.
Most definitely. I will want to believe that all basic food that they left out should be increased. I wouldn't say take out all, but the government needs some money now, but a lot of taxes have to come out of these things now. The system, especially where food is concerned, because we are facing, I don't want to sound, I'm very factual. I told you because of the availability and the prices is one.
Yes.
You'll have money, but you can't get the goods. I think there are a lot of tax structures and surcharges. All right. Let's see how fast I can say this. They put 60% surcharge taxes on macaroni to protect one macaroni company. That is long time. That's days dead and gone. That is financiers, like friends. You get America use wings from chicken and the breast. The rest is profit. They sell the leg and thigh for an average of 30-35 cents a pound. CIF. If you multiply that by $7, it's about $2 and something cents a pound. They put 60% on it. And the people saying this is old meat. But Tyson's hundreds of containers a week it does. Because of the fact, when I spoke about comparative advantage, you have to get corn gone up. We have about $15-16 a pound for chicken. How my people, my medium and low income people will eat when they have to pay 60% on leg and thigh that costing 35 cents a pound. I am feeling really hurt now. These are the things the government have to wake up to. Get creative, get real, and stop these things. Don't tell me I'm going to protect the local industry by 60% on macaroni. No. You want to protect them? Put 20% there. You want to protect the chicken industry? Anytime you go beyond 15 and 20%, it will make time producing it.
Right.
You're not competing.
Right. Another huge disincentive there, even for local producers and even young persons, I suppose, looking on and wondering, whether that's a viable, business plan, as it were. But we're almost at the end of the program for this evening, Mr. Maharaj, and I wanted to have the just few minutes to allow you to give us some closing remarks and a message for Trinidad and Tobago, for the region. Where would you like to see us going as we talk about food security, food sufficiency for Trinidad and Tobago? What are some of the things that you would like to leave with our nation and our people today with respect to our subject matter this evening?
Well, the recap, my good citizens, I am in this business for over 65 years. I have already crossed my 80s, and I have a lot of experience, as you, Mr. Cummings, have beaten. I love to share it and guide young people. They always say a good leader is only a good leader if you make other good leaders, create good leaders. So the question is that we are seeing a dim view for food survival here. And first to begin, we must all respect, and there's a big campaign started in India. I'm happy to see Michael Montano. He and all is growing cocoa and also making a good chocolate. We can learn from him, and he's campaigning now, which I'm going to definitely join him. Save the soil, and we must understand if you dig the soil all the time, you will reach sun, and we will have good soil. Save that soil. Your cups, your plastic, find a way we can dump it and not get it back to the soil.
Okay.
And we should all start to hold hands together. And I will go out to the extent, forget enemies now, work together and plan things together. Try your own different
hydroponics. Yes.
Hydroponics is the correct word. Sorry. They could do this in small scales and create some little things for themselves. But most important, we must we all in this together, keep your plastic, your cups and thing in some way, and don't dump it all in the sun and the sea. And, let us work together, hold hands, make back friends with your family and so on, and do things together, even buying food together, growing together. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Maharaj, we have to leave it there at the moment, and we want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us inside the Citizens Community Forum. It's a discussion that I believe we'll have to continue at another time, because there's so many other areas we haven't touched on, and we will, extend that invitation certainly to you to continue that discourse with us, because when we talk about food security, when we talk about food sufficiency, and especially what is happening out there now in Europe, we have all the reasons here in Trinidad and Tobago to be concerned, and not just to be concerned, but to be able to put things in place, to be able to position ourselves as a people and as a region to safeguard and basically to put us into a strong sustainable way, so that we can continue to be healthy people. And also producing at the levels that we would all want to see. Thank you so much again for talking with us.
Well, thank you. One last thing for having me. And if I said anything that was offensive, I do apologize again. And I look forward to joining you anytime. God bless.
Thank you again, Mr. Maharaj. And this is the Citizens Community Forum. I'm Stephen Cummings, Mr. Balliram Maharaj there talking with us on the topic food security, creating a buffer for Trinidad and Tobago in the face of the Ukraine-Russia crisis. I'm Stephen Cummings. This has been the Citizens Community Forum. See you next Wednesday.
It was a famous poet who once said, "They came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." Words there from famous poet Martin Niemöller, 1892 to 1984.